So today I thought I'd do a little revisit of my ink palette. So I made this a while ago to hold my inks securely whilst I was working on them, because I was always terrified that I was going to knock the ink all over the floor. It's pretty rustic and it's been quite functional, but there is a couple of things that I need to adjust. The first thing is the palette area is raised because I used the same template bottle. I don't mind it being raised in this part because I think that helps hold the bottle in place. But on this part, when I'm mixing or diluting the inks, it is a bit annoying that this isn't flat. I'm very happy with the notch to rest the paintbrush in. But the other issue is that I would quite like to be able to have two bottles of ink with a inkwell in the middle with the paintbrush holder dip at the sides, and I'd like two of those at the sides as well. I have a very small amount of clay left, but I think it will be just enough to make the palette, the modified palette, and this time I'm going to try and make it a little bit more even. I don't have very many clay tools, but I have these modelling tools and I never used them before. I don't know what they're called, if they've all got special names, but I think these ones will help me get a smoother bottom. And yeah, so we'll see how we go. I've got my trusty rolling pin that I just keep for my clay, and yeah, so let's give it a go. So I used a couple of books just to ensure I was rolling the clay out level. And then I used 3 ink bottles to press into the clay to make the recesses. I did have a little accident with the red ink. I'm leaking. Oh dear. It looks like I've cut my fingers. This happened before. Right, I better go and clean up. So I haven't cracked the bottle and the lid was on properly, so I'm not really sure why this was leaking. The other ones are fine. Maybe I was just pressing too hard. I don't know, but now I've got red stains all over my fingers. Oh well. When pressing into the clay, I wanted to create a lip of at least 5mm, and I think I ended up with just under a centimetre in the end. But it is very important to wiggle the bottle around because the air dried clay does shrink a little bit as it dries. So I was making sure that there was a few millimetres either side of the bottle. In the centre recess, I scooped out the centre using one of my new clay tools. It worked really well actually, and it gave me a very smooth finish. Very impressed with those. I cut the edges off with a knife to try and make a nice straight edge. And then I just double checked that the bottles fit nicely with a little bit of a gap around. And left it to dry for a couple of days. Once it was dry, I needed to sand off the rough edges. And I just used a sanding block. And then I checked the shrinkage level with the bottles, and I was quite surprised just how much the clay had shrunk. It shrunk a lot more than I'd expected it to, so I definitely needed to scrape away some of the excess with a craft knife. This took quite a lot of doing, and I found I had to keep constantly checking and measuring with the bottle just to make sure which parts I needed to scrape away. I didn't want it to be too tight fitting, as I wanted to put a layer of paint and varnish on top as well. And I found if I sliced downwards into the clay along the edges, that worked an awful lot better than just scraping the clay with the knife. I also found that using a thick nail file was quite a good way to sand down the top and the sides as well. The nail file was a lot finer than the sandpaper I was using. So it did take quite a while to get everything to fit into place. I couldn't decide on what colour to paint it, but I did end up choosing black paint, black acrylic paint. And I just edged the edges with some gold leaf. I put the gold leaf in place using some Mod Podge, and then once the paint was dry, I sealed it all with some Mod Podge and left it to dry for a few more days as well. And over the course of the next week or two, I applied 2 coats of varnish. And it works really well. I'm really pleased with this. I haven't used the inner palette for mixing yet. I will try that out over the course of the next few weeks. So thank you for watching. I do hope that some of it may have been useful to you or interesting at the very least, and I hope to catch up with you again soon.